Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala khairul mursaleen. Muhammadin al-Nabi al-Ummi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd, yaqulu Allahu ta'ala fil Quran al-Kareem. Inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna 'alan nabi. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu tasliman. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Maulana Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I want to mention a few things. First, I'll start with, I want to mention our rate and pattern of evolution. Our rate and pattern of evolution mean that it's very clear. For instance, we were going to go to California, back to California in January. But they assassinated Brother Qasim Soleimani in Iraq, which he was from Iran, and they martyred his companion, Brother Muhammad. Okay, when that happened, that was January the 3rd, that brought him to a whole collage, a whole picture of things that we have been dealing with for a long time. We have been especially dealing with Najaf, Karbala, and what all of that meant, you know, the 20s of millions of people going to Najaf and Karbala. And it proved to be true because those two janazas, those funerals, that they took their bodies first to Najaf and Karbala. And the people, they had the Iraqi flag on one, Iranian flag on the other, and it really unified those people, because those are two of the people who've been in the front row of liberation struggle inside of, in the Middle East, in that region, against Daesh, against ISIS, against all of those groups and movements that at the hand of the Zionist state of Israel, who have been destroying and destabilizing that whole region. You could see how organized the destabilization process was, because in 2014 you would see truck after truckload of people driving these white Toyota trucks full of soldiers. Those were all the enemies of Islam. You could see how well they were organized. You could see they were supplied. They were better supplied than the Taliban, who fought against the unity of the Muslims in Afghanistan. But in our rate and pattern of evolution, we always talk about evolving ahead of the curve or along with the curve. As history moves forward, it is possible for people, like we mentioned Ikhwan before. Ikhwan have been in a state of evolution, but if the Islamic movement, and we mentioned that during the Arab Spring, if the Islamic movement have been moving ahead, or the fitna against the Islamic movement, or the environment surrounding Islam and Muslims have been evolving at 100 miles an hour, Ikhwan have been evolving at 40 miles an hour. So they're moving forward, but behind the evolution of the movement. You know what I mean? They're behind, constantly behind, because of their own innate evolutionary process. The proof of that was during the so-called Arab Spring, how many Muslims, Ikhwan Muslims, were martyred. The president was Ikhwani, and he got elected, and we said he shouldn't do that, because if you get elected and you can't do nothing, the Zionists are going to work against you, the Americans are going to work against you, and then you cannot revive the Egyptian economy by yourself. So the people will turn and blame the Ikhwan al-Muslimin for their decline, the problems that they have, because you said you were going to fix them. They always need somebody to blame. So the system will make sure you get elected so they can blame the problems on you. Okay. So where are we? And where are they? We say, where are we? I just showed you the little statement about, hey, why don't you tell people your name was Fats? Where's Fats at? That type of stuff. Okay, now, where are we? Fats was my nickname, and it was a short period because I was in the youth authority in California, and I was called Fats for a few months at most, because I was kind of short, talking trash all the time. Everybody liked me, at least they pretended to. And so they called me Fats for a short period of time. Now, within a year's time, it just so happens, just to change, not to change the subject, at this Fred C. Nellis School for Boys, they had an adjustment center. And in an adjustment center, they would wake you up at 4 o'clock in the morning and throw a bucket of water in your room and give you another bucket with a scrub brush. And you had to wipe that water up off the floor, and you had to scrub the walls, and the police would come by and see if you was doing it. Then at 5 o'clock, you would go out and do military exercises. Now, you can see how fast you long. And you would do military exercise 5 times a day. That was your punishment for being in an adjustment center. I was Fats for 3 months maximum. The police, Mr. Yahtzee and Mr. Thomas, they used to kind of like me. You know, he was a consul. They said, boy, you was in here and you didn't stay fat for no time. You know what I mean? Why? 5 times a day, doing military exercise, and then you finish up with a little run around the prison yard there. So the point is that how important are we in this issue? For them to go back to what year could that have been? 1961. 1961. What is that? Almost 60 years ago.
Yeah, 5 years.
That's 60 years ago.
Yep.
You got 1960 and 1961. Good God Almighty. Can you imagine? In fact, it was 1960. So they go back to all that time, and they have to talk to, because the police there didn't know your name, your nickname. Only the convicts would know, right? Then the police probably all dead. So they had to interview people that were there. So they interviewed, they had to, because how they going to come up with facts? Nobody knew that, right? The point is, the other one, Chico, the other nickname I had at that time was, they called me Remo Cheeks. You know, your name is Reem, so they just, you know, your friend Remo Cheeks, you know. Then they shortened it to Chico. And so a lot of people wouldn't know exactly where it started. So when my grandson was here, and he was, yeah, Chico, Yeah, Chico. And he kept saying it over and over again. I didn't respond because it flashed back. That is, at that time, that was way, way back beyond his ability to even know anything about it. And I even was wondering, does he even know what he's saying? So the point is, who are we and where are we? The things that they deal with go so far back that it goes back to almost your time of birth, and it goes back to how deep they want to go, or they do go. Just the one on fats is enough. That's enough. Fats is that period. 14 years old. Good God. All right. So how far and how deep would all of this stuff go? That would be related to how much time they spend on us, how much focus they spend on us, right? How much resources do they spend on us, right? How long have they been doing this? Well, we know how long it's been with us, and we just had to kind of let people know how far and how deep this goes back. Okay, the other thing we want to talk about is our evolution during this period, right here, during this period. So we stopped from going back to California because it seemed like it was something happening here very important. By the time that happened, that period passed. It never passed, but by that time, that period moved, the tension with Iran, the shooting down of the American drone that was worth billions of dollars and all of that stuff. By the time all of that happened, then this coronavirus kicks in. And when this kicks in, this postpones, again, our return to California. I bought that little white car I have out there, that Volvo. I bought that specifically to go back to California. And I will go back to California. In fact, relatively soon, maybe. Okay. So in arranging our California trip and arranging everything else, and organizing around here, getting the house painted, and we do a little stuff there and all of that. We have to prepare for arriving in Oakland. What are we going to do there? What type of hustle are we going to be involved in? What type of methodology are we going to be involved in? Because we're not on the same level as when we left 7, 8 months ago. It's not the same. That's because we are evolving at our proper rate. We are. The proof of that is when this stuff happened with brother in Minneapolis, Floyd. All right, right away, that put us on another trajectory. And number one, there's other things that are involved in this process that we're going through right now. They're coming to a head. And number one, we talked about what was going to happen in this period of time. We said clearly in Juma and on our other lectures that they were going to run the people around the block a few times. They're going to go through that change. And then they're gonna get quiet, they're gonna forget about it, and then they'll go back to normal. Okay, so what they call normal, that's not gonna happen exactly. Some parts of it happen. In the meantime, we went down to those demonstrations and presentations, and we made our own presentation. So we would have a feel, a real feel. This was our testing period. If you was looking at what we were doing, we were testing the water. We were seeing, we were doing, taking a step forward, and then we were testing them to see what they do. Number one, the first day we went down there, even without the speaker, the police came, and the one you put on, it's on there, you just watch the one that's on the Facebook. So the police come, and he say what he say. So we said, okay, we'll bite at that. The next day we went down with our own speaker, and we talked to the people. The general talk was about they're trying to divide up the community, and how they are so sad because the black people and the white people are working so well together. Okay, that's partially true, but most of it, a lot of it, they're making up. But the message we want to give is that message, because you can't get too complicated on the people and have too many things being said. You say, you can't go down there and explain to them the whole thing. It won't work. You can't do it at Juma, you can't do it. We've been doing this stuff for years, and we're still on the basic surface of this. Because whatever happens out front, there's 10 things that happen in the back. So after that, we come down and we do several programs on basically not only sit-ins, but teach-ins and all of those things. And we're actually just talking to the people about the past and the present and the future. If you have certain things that you want to accomplish, you have to be organized in order to do them. Our process of organization have been teachings. And you come and you teach the people every day. Okay, you got to remember, downtown, and nowhere else, you don't see it anywhere. In the demonstrations in New York, you don't see anywhere where they had teach-ins, where you got everybody there, now we're going to have a demonstration. This is what we're about. This is where we're going. We have a liaison with the police, right? And we talk to them. This is our liaison. This is our spokesperson. Okay? Here's what we're having, a peaceful demonstration. Anybody breaks any windows, anybody burns any cars or stores, they are not with us. Okay? That's the way you have a correct demonstration. This is why we're here. This is what we want to do. This is what we want to accomplish. And also you mentioned some of the things that might be done to you or against you to prevent you. Also, you have a press spokesman that one person talks to the press. Now they can talk to other people in the crowd, but that's the official spokesperson. This is why we're here. This is what we want to do. All good demonstrations have some of those elements in it. They didn't have any of that downtown. They didn't have any of that. None of the demonstrations that we observed or participated in had any of those elements. That's the first thing. The next thing is, how much attention were they paying to our talks, lectures, da, 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 da. They was paying plenty of attention, but you could never see any of it on any TV or anywhere else. None. Can you imagine There's nobody out there at all making sense of anything, and we're the only ones out there. And one lady that was doing her interview on camera, and you could hear what we were saying going into their microphone, they cut it off. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, they cut it off. Down at the White House.
Yeah, there was, almost every time we were there, you would see, even that last time we went, there was media press there. They packed up and left as soon as they saw us start setting up.
As if somebody told them, look, it can't happen every time. As if somebody told them, if this crew shows up, make sure there's a blackout or a whiteout. That we call it a whiteout. This is a whiteout. And you can't, it's whitewashed, it's so whitewashed, you can't hear nothing. Now, if I had a red, orange, and green suit on with stars in my hair, and I was out there dancing and talking, they would come and interview me. Hey, what's up? And I would give them that spiel. I'm telling you, it was so well coordinated, it's unbelievable. Now, that demonstration, that whole thing, as I said last week, was only 30% successful. I'm going to bring a few other points in. After we went down to the Congress, and we was doing those interviews under the trees and stuff.
Yeah.
The police came by.
They still found us.
Followed us by As-Sabiqun. Now you got to remember now, they're not these DC. They're not acting mad. They're not acting. Somebody that told them to encounter us, but on a certain level, and they encountered us on As-Salamu Alaikum, how you doing level, except for the guy that drives by on his the grass cutting machine.
Right, that guy.
Making all that noise. Okay, now it's no big deal, but there's a whole field he could have been cutting over there.
Right.
He drove right by where we was and then went on over somewhere else. The point is, somebody's paying attention to us. We're not an accidental, haphazard reality. Somebody is paying deep attention to us, constant attention, and regular attention. Now, this thing started falling apart from the very beginning. From the very beginning, we gave a talk here about the assassination